Okay, so this is the rainwater harvesting system for Miro and Jasmine. It is December the 8th, 2022. I'm Damien with Permaculture Artisans, and we're going to start the system with our leaf diverters. So we have leaf diverters on, I believe, 6 downspouts. So there's a screen here. So any small debris gets caught, you can brush that off. You can also take the screens off completely, shake them out, rinse them out, whatever you need to do. And that it needs to be maintained basically depending on how much debris goes into that. The water then goes under the deck and it flows over here as we're catching more downspouts along the way with more leaf diverters there. The catchment pipes run under the ground at this point and run under the deck area here. Under the deck, those pipes run into a large first flush pipe. The purpose of the first flush is that when you have a storm, the dirtiest water of a given storm is the first water that comes in, and so that pipe fills up with water. Once that pipe is full and you have cleaner water coming in, then water is going to go up and into our surge tank, this small green tank here. When there's water in that surge tank, the power turns on to this transfer pump. When that transfer pump turns on, water gets pumped out of here and up the hill to our main collection tanks for the rainwater system. To point out a few things around the transfer tank area here, first of all, at the end of the first flush, there's a ball valve. You can leave that ball valve just a tiny bit cracked. That's one option, and then it'll just sort of drain itself between storms. Or you can open that valve from time to time to clean out the water in the first flush system. Either of those is appropriate. For the surge tank, there is an overflow, and that overflow comes into effect on 2 occasions. One, when you have a super duper duper crazy storm and the pump is not strong enough to pump all of the water out at once, then water will overflow into the swale. Or the more likely scenario, when the tanks up at the top are full and that pipe gets shut off, then the overflow, then the pump will not pump water, and the overflow, this will fill up, and the overflow will go into our swale system over here. To point out a couple of other things about this transfer pump, we have power shut off over here, so that if maintenance needs to happen on that pump, they can shut that off. There is a pressure switch here, so this is operated by a pressure switch. So basically, if the pressure is low and there is and there's water in that tank, then the pump will turn on and pump water out to the upper storage tanks. Okay, let's just talk about a couple of features outside here. Stand pipe currently, this is a pipe coming down from the main storage tanks there from the irrigation pump. So this would be connected to irrigation manifolds, hose bibs, etc., and would be feeding rainwater into the landscape. The overflow here, we have a swale which would fill up, and if the whole swale is full, then water should come out across the edge of the whole swale and have sheet flow so that you don't have erosion in any particular place. Over time, that may need to be maintained. There's also a pipe here that flows into the swale, and that comes from, this is a wet line system, so what that means is when a storm is over, there's still water in the bottom of these pipe systems, and there's a mechanism in here which is timed to release that water. A battery needs to be replaced on that mechanism. It's that black thing with the clear plastic top on it. Battery needs to be replaced in that mechanism from time to time so that it keeps actually emptying that wet line pipe there. Okay, so we have trenching that goes all the way from that transfer tank over to the main collection tanks. This is about the midway point. We have an electrical junction box here because we have power running from there up to the new irrigation pump. In addition, in that same trench, we have water coming up from the transfer tank, and we have water coming down as an irrigation line going to that small standpipe down at the bottom. Okay, so from the transfer tank, water comes into this pipe, goes into the tanks. On the other side of this tank wall, there is a mechanical float valve. So it's sort of like your bathroom toilet, basically. When that float goes up, it closes off that pipe. So basically when both of these tanks are completely full, it shuts off any flow from the transfer tank down there, and any excess water flows into the swale. In addition, right here, we have this pipe. This is a top-off valve. So basically, when these tanks are really low, and there's just a little bit of water in the bottom of the tanks, this valve allows water to come from the well system and just keep the very bottom of these tanks full. So that allows the system to keep operating without any involvement from the client. But it keeps the majority of the tank space open to receive rain at a later time. In addition, there is, by the way, this valve here is only for maintenance issues. If the top-off valve needs to be worked on, this valve can be turned off so that people can operate that. This is electrical conduit. This leads to an electric float switch. If for some reason there's a problem with the system and there's no water left in the tank, that operates as a kill switch for our irrigation pump over here so that the pump won't burn out. Water comes out of the bottom of the two tanks. It stays on the same level for both of those tanks, assuming those two gate valves remain open. Water flows into the pump. At this point, you can see pressure on the pressure valve here, pressure gauge here. There is a pressure tank, and then water goes out to an irrigation system. That system has not been built at this time, but that's where the pipe goes out to there. We'll mention one more thing on the electrical work. There is a shutoff switch for the irrigation pipe, for the irrigation pump here, if any maintenance needs to be done on this pump. A final note. This is an emergency overflow. So if there's some sort of malfunction with that float switch there, and water is allowed to go in, then this is emergency overflow so that water goes somewhere. It comes over to this dry well here, and we have a little screen on the end of that just so that mosquitoes and rats and whatnot can't get into the main tanks. But this is a dry well, so the gravel goes down a ways. But if you see water coming out of this pipe, it means that something is wrong and something needs to be fixed. Water should not be coming out of this pipe unless something is malfunctioning. I think that's it. Thanks.